ready for a quote that is so profound, you're going to want to print it, frame it, and hang it up in your house? Well, here you go. You can't bounce back if you've never bounced to begin with. You're welcome. In today's show, we're going to be talking about 4 players who saw their numbers decline in 2022 compared to maybe what we saw in earlier seasons in their career. However, this season, they could see a return to those big numbers. But damn it has been way too long since I've given something away. I have here today a signed piece of memorabilia from one of the players that we're talking about here in today's show, thanks to our friends over at Pristine Auction. Now, today's item is a signed Jonathan Taylor Colts mini helmet. I have this right here from our friends over at Pristine Auction. But maybe you're asking yourself, Jake, how do I enter to win said Jonathan Taylor mini helmet? It's super simple. Hit the like button. Leave a comment down below so I know you're interested in the helmet, and then make sure you have your free account signed up at pristineauction.com. Doesn't cost you anything, links down below in the description, and be sure that you put Headliners as the referral code when you do so, because if you do, you're gonna get a $10 credit into your account towards a future auction purchase if you so choose. So as you can tell, it's pretty simple. Once this video hits 750 likes, which shouldn't be that big of a problem, I'll announce the winner in an upcoming video, so make sure you hit that like button because we're diving in. Let's just start with Jonathan Taylor, right? You already know he's going to be in this video, so let's talk about him here first. And he was last year's #1 pick overall by so many people, but I think I can say that no one really well, at least if they did expect this, maybe you should never listen to these people again. But if anybody told you to expect in 2022 what we got in 2021, that's just false. Of course there was going to be regression. His 2021 season was ginormous. However, even when you calculate him taking a regression, a step back, even if he were to lose 400 or 500 total yards and a handful of touchdowns, he still would have had enough fantasy points to finish top 3 at the position, which made a lot of people kind of have that warm fuzzy, even if he did take that step back. The biggest thing that we couldn't account for, though, was the drama in Indianapolis with the coaching situations, missing a total of 6 games last year with an ankle injury. That absolutely sucked. An injury that was actually bad enough that forced him to need off-season surgery here just to repair it. And don't even get me started on the offensive line. A lot of people expected this offensive line to play a lot better. However, I don't even know if we could maybe say they were average at best. But what about the quarterback play? That really affects a running back in fantasy football. The quarterback play was not very good last year either. Opposing defenses could just focus on Jonathan Taylor. They weren't really worried about the likes of Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, Nick Foles, all them blue for most of the season. And yet, the only thing you ever hear is people saying, what happened to Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan Taylor sucks. Jonathan Taylor's a bust. All these things play into the performance of Jonathan Taylor. He was basically given the equivalent of a flaming bag of dog poop on your front porch, and that sucker was lit with the torch. It's not like it all rested on his shoulders. It was bad all the way around. And when you go back and you look at the numbers for Jonathan Taylor, there's really 2 big things that I found that really accounted for the disaster that was 2022. It was a lack of big plays and a lack of touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor's breakaway run rate went from 6.9% in 2021 down to 3.6% in 2022. If you don't know what that is, that's the percentage of carries that equated to more than 15 yards. 3.6% isn't really going to cut it, right? That number almost got cut in half from 21 to 22. What about goal line carries? Well, he went from having 1 every 16 carries in 2021 to 1 every 32 carries in 2022. Once again, the number was cut in half. And that's not because he was losing them. No, the Colts just couldn't score overall as an offense. They finished as the 3rd lowest scoring team in all of the NFL. And really, they were only 2 points higher than Denver, and they're the ones that finished dead last. So they might as well be last, right? But what about this year? There are a ton of changes in Indianapolis here. Starting with a new head coach in Shane Steichen, the former offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know about you, but Philadelphia's offense has looked pretty good for a couple years. They also have now a new quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who's kind of like a hybrid Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson style player. He even calls himself Cam Jackson, or has been referred to as Cam Jackson in the past. We have Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce. They just drafted Josh Downs to be on the outside with a mixture of tight end Jelani Woods. Mo Cox, more problems at the tight end position as well. Now a mobile quarterback that opposing defenses have to account for. And this isn't just some dink and dunk guy that can only run. He can throw the ball down the field, but most importantly, we have an offensive-minded head coach that has had a top 5 rushing team in each of the last 2 years. Now, sure, the quarterback in Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, is responsible for some of those numbers. But we also saw in that same offense, Miles Sanders get 1,347 total yards and 11 touchdowns in that offense last year. I think we can all agree, if we come together, that Jonathan Taylor is greater than Miles Sanders. Now, am I sitting here and saying he's going to bounce back to that 2,000-yard season? No, I would be stupid to say that. But 1,500 total yards and flirt with double-digit touchdowns? I'll take that as a bounce back here at a slight discount in 2023, because you don't have to take him number 1 overall anymore. How about Naji Harris of Pittsburgh? And at first, I didn't really feel like I needed to include Naji in a bounce back video. However, there's a lot of people, I think, out there that are overly critical of what he did just last season. Did he regress? Sure, by 400 less total yards in 2022. But he still had a total of 1,263 total yards and 10 total touchdowns. But outside of that, when you go back and look at his numbers, there's really just one factor for that happening. It was volume. And really, it was just the volume the first 6 weeks of the regular season. But why was that a shock to so many people? We tried so hard last offseason to let everyone know that, hey, there is a good chance that Naji Harris starts slow this season. He missed a month in the preseason with a sprained Lisfranc injury in his foot. He was going to be brought along slowly. Don't forget, it was just a couple years ago that a Lisfranc injury kept Travis Etienne out for the entire season. It was their plan to bring Naji along slow. I thought everybody was going to be aware of that, but apparently they weren't. The slow start just robbed him of enough production that caused his season totals to dip. All of his averages were similar, both in 2021 and 2022. Yards per carry, yards per reception, yards per touch. Heck, he even duplicated his touchdown total with 10. Plus, with all of that being said, he still had over 300 touches. We know that Naji's a volume guy. He needs to get big volume because he's not overly efficient. But we also know there's not a lot of running backs in fantasy football that we can kind of chalk up for having 300 touches a year. Last year, there were only 8 running backs that had over 300 total touches. Now, many people are going to point to Jaylen Warren as the reason to worry about Naji Harris here this year. I personally don't see it that way. I kind of see the Pittsburgh backfield as like the Dr. Skipper version of what we've seen in Dallas the past few years with Zeke and Tony Pollard. Both these guys in this backfield can be productive in different ways. Plus, now we have Kenny Pickett in year 2 to go along with Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. Don't forget they brought in Allen Robinson to play the slot there as well. They still have the Pat Freiermuth playing tight end. This offense is going to have a lot more scoring chances in 2023, and Naji could be the guy that soaks up a lot of those touchdowns. You, this year, just get to sit back, enjoy the discount from his quote-unquote down year, get him in the late second, early third, and have another solid running back on your roster in a bounce-back year in 2023. But let's talk about a couple ball catchers as well, some wide receivers. What about DJ Moore? I know so many people hate DJ Moore, but listen here for a second. The best quarterback that DJ Moore has had over the last 4 seasons in the NFL has been Teddy Bridgewater. Let that sink in for a second. He's had Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, old and washed Cam Newton, Teddy Bridgewater, Kyle Allen, Will Grier. That is a disgusting list of quarterbacks. And what's even crazier is up until last year, He was getting over 1,200 total yards a year with those type of quarterbacks. Are we really thinking that Justin Fields is going to be worse than that pile of quarterback mess we've seen in the past few years? No freaking way. The Bears wanted this guy for a reason. They traded the #1 overall pick to Carolina, and DJ Moore had to be a part of the deal to make that work. Now, in no way am I saying that Justin Fields equals Patrick Mahomes here. But this is also going to be the first chance that Justin Fields has had in the NFL to have multiple solid weapons to throw to on the outside. Don't forget, Darnell Mooney went down with an injury early last year. Chase Claypool came in mid-season. He's also had 2 different coaching staffs in 2 years in the NFL. I mean, come on. So many people are quick to judge players and talents, but they're not looking at the big picture. But what's so great about DJ Moore is what he can do on the football field. He can play inside in the slot. He can play on the outside. They can give him carries out of the backfield if they want. And as much as Fields needs a guy like DJ Moore in his offense, DJ Moore needed a change of scenery and needs a guy like Justin Fields. People do not put enough stock into players' happiness nowadays, and that may sound stupid to even say, but when a player is happy to be where they are, they're more likely to play better. We know Justin Fields needed an alpha wide receiver. He's happy because he got one. We know DJ Moore wasn't happy in Carolina. He got out, and now he gets to go play in a bigger market in Chicago. They're a little bit happier, both of them, which is only going to help the situation. I really expect to see a lot of this connection in 2023, especially when the pocket collapses, Fields is forced to improvise on the run. That's when him and DJ Moore can make some big time plays happen, and why I really feel like DJ Moore is primed for a bounce back season once again this year. I can easily see him at a minimum returning to the stat lines that we saw him get in 2019, 2020, and 2021. 1,200 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think that's a good baseline with plenty of room to grow, and you're not having to pay a super high price in order to get DJ Moore. He's one of those guys that if he pops off and you take a chance on him, could be one of those guys that helps you win a lot of fantasy football championships. And then lastly, my lowest ranked guy of the day in this show, Brandon Cooks of now the Dallas Cowboys. And not many people really realize that Brandon Cooks has had at least 1,000 yards receiving in 6 of his last 8 years that he's played, all while doing it for 4 different teams in that span. In fact, Cooks has gone over 1,000 yards in his career every single time he's played in at least 15 games in a season. It's like mini Mike Evans out there. The biggest issues here as of late have been quarterback play, just like DJ Moore and what we talked about. The past few seasons, he's had the likes of Davis Mills, Tyrod Taylor, Kyle Allen, Jeff Driscoll, all throwing him the ball in Houston. That is almost more disgusting than what we talked about with DJ Moore. And heck, he still had 1,000-yard season in 2021, which was basically like Davis Mills, so we know he still has that higher upside. Everything is different now, though. He's still in Texas, but he's no longer in Houston. Now he's in Dallas. And Dak is going to be the best quarterback he's had by far since Deshaun Watson in 2020. And he actually kind of really fits what this offense needs, an outside threat. We love CeeDee Lamb in the slot. He wins there all the time. That's where we get the biggest bang for our buck. We don't want him on the outside. So put Brandon Cooks on the outside, and that is going to help tremendously. Michael Gallup hasn't looked like the same wide receiver since coming back from a Week 17 ACL tear in 2021 as of yet, but adding Cooks is also going to take some pressure off of Gallup as well. Dalton Schultz is gone. Noah Brown is gone. T.Y. Hilton is gone. That right there is 173 available targets that potentially could help feed Brandon Cooks. The run game still right now only really has Tony Pollard as well, so you know they're going to throw the ball a lot in Dallas this year. But what makes him most intriguing to me here is how cheap you can get him this season. As of right now, the consensus has this dude raked outside the top 40 wide receivers at the position. He's going to be into the triple digits when it comes time for your fantasy football drafts. A wide receiver with 1,000-yard upside that you can get in the 9th or 10th round, Brandon Cooks is primed for a bounce back and a guy that I'm going to be stashing on my bench a lot this season. But who do you consider a bounce back candidate here for 2023? Are there any players that you got your eye on? Leave that comment down below. You got to leave a comment anyway, right? You're trying to win a signed Jonathan Taylor mini helmet from Pristine Auction. 750 likes, and I'm going to be announcing this in a future video. So make sure, hit the like button, leave a comment, have your free account signed up at Pristine Auction, and then be on the lookout because you could be walking away with this sweet mini helmet in the very near future. But for now, hopefully you have a great rest of your day and do your part to make the world a better place.